Okay, so in the previous class, we discussed about the what we call the different kind of valuation techniques, what we use for valuation of equity. There are three types of cash flow. One is your dividend, then free cash flow to the equity, then the operating cash flow. These are the three cash flows. And whenever the dividend and free cash flow to the equity will be used, we are using the cost of equity as a discount rate. And whenever the operating cash flow is used as a cash flow, we use the cost of capital as a discount rate. And depending upon that, and as well as the growth rate of the cash flow, we are basically able to uh, do the valuation of the equity. Then the another type of valuation technique also we can use, and their objective is different. That is called the relative valuation. That is called the relative valuation techniques. Then what exactly the relative valuation technique is? Using this relative valuation technique, generally, the value of the company can be determined by the comparing with the similar stock. Comparing with the similar stock, maybe that stock belongs to same industry or same type of stock. If you are comparing, whenever you go for investing in those kind of stocks, we generally compare certain kind of multiples, certain kind of factors we consider to decide that which stock is better for the investment for the investor. So that's why the relative valuation technique is basically a kind of comparative technique which is used to compare between the similar stocks which are available in the market. And mostly the variables what we use for for this comparison, these are basically your earnings. We can use earnings from that particular stock. We can use the cash flow. We can also use the book value of that particular stock, or we can also use the sales. So these are the different type of indicators, different kind of variables what we use for the relative valuation techniques. But the if you see the most popular relative valuation technique generally investors always use, which is basically based on the price to earnings, price to earnings ratio. Price to earnings ratio is the most popular technique what the investor always use whenever they go for the valuation of the stocks. So here, whenever we talk about this, what basically we are trying to do, we are basically trying to calculate the value of the stock based on the expected earnings, based on the expected earnings of that particular stock. So that is basically we call it the earnings multiplier. That basically we call it the earnings multiplier. And this earnings multiplier is nothing but the current price of the stock, the current price of the stock divided by your earnings per share, divided by the earnings per share. So this is the most popular indicator, popular multiple what generally we use. And if you also observe, there is a relationship between this earnings per share and this dividend discount model, whatever we have discussed just now. So in the dividend discount model, what basically we have seen, your P is equal to, if you are assuming a constant growth rate of the cash flow for the indefinite period of time, then your P is equal to D1 divided by your R minus G. So here, if you divide your expected earnings in the both sides, then you will find your P by E1 is equal to D1 by E1 divided by your R minus G. So what is this D1 by E1? This is basically nothing but the dividend payout ratio, expected dividend payout ratio. And already you know R is equal to your discount rate and G is equal to the growth rate of the dividend. Growth of the dividend. So that means there are three factors which is affecting your price to earning ratio. One is your expected dividend payout ratio. Another one is the required rate of return, which is basically R. Then we have the expected growth rate of the dividend, that is basically G. So this is the way basically the price to earning ratio can be calculated. So let me give you one example. If I will give you, for example, there is a company. There is a company is expected earnings per share, or last year, okay, the expected, not expected, this is the EPS was last year at EPS 0. This was basically at 2.75, and it has paid 50% of the 50% of its earnings as the dividend. 50% is the 50% of the earnings as the dividend. As dividend. Then growth rate of this earnings and dividend is expected to be 5%. Then your G is equal to 5%. Your current dividend payout ratio is 50%. Your expected growth rate of the dividend is 5%. And your last year EPS was basically 2.75 rupees. So if you want to calculate the what we can call the price to earning ratio of the company, then what will be the P by E? Can you tell me? Yes. What is the, yes?
Sir, we will need discount rate, right?
Hmm?
We will need discount rate.
Okay, R is equal to, okay, I forgot. R is equal to let 12%. Then what is the P by E?
It's 7.1.
7.1. How you have got this?
Sir, dividend payout ratio is 0.5 and 0.12 minus 0.05 divided by 0.12 minus.
0.12 minus 0.05. But this 50% dividend was there in the last year. So is it required to multiply your growth rate also to this?
Oh, yes, sir.
So it is
Multiply
0.5.
1 plus
0.5 divided by 0.12 minus 0.5, or it is 0.5 into 1 plus 0.05.
Yes, sir.
Right? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So that is the way basically the price earning ratio can be calculated. So here, if for example, if there is a change in any one of the variables, this payout ratio is going to be changed. For example, if I write here, let the dividend payout ratio is 50%. Your R is equal to 15%. Let the growth rate is equal to 10%. Okay. So obviously, in this case, if already it is expected dividend payout ratio is given, so directly you can calculate your P by E is equal to 0.5 divided by what you said from the beginning, 0.15 minus 0.10. That will give you the let 10. So let what basically I have made your R is equal, R becomes 16%. Then what is your dividend payout ratio? the dividend payout ratio will become, it will change, it will increase or it will decrease. If the discount rate will increase, then your price earning ratio will increase or decrease. Yes. बढ़ेगा या नीचे आएगा?
It will decrease.
It will decrease. It will decrease. So then automatically it will be 0.5 divided by 0.16 minus 0.10. So that will be coming around 8.33. Let we have increased the growth rate from 10% to 11%. So then automatic your PY ratio will be 0.5 divided by your 0.15 divided by 0.11. We are keeping your discount rate constant and we have increased the growth rate by 1%. So then it will again further increase 12.5 because the denominator will go down. If both rate we are changing, let we have made your R is equal to 14% and G become 11%. Then what will happen? The P ratio will drastically increase. That is your 0.5 divided by your 0.14 minus 0.11. That is your 16.66. So any small change in either or both R or G will have a larger impact on the multiplier. So if any discount rate will change or the growth rate will change or both rate will change, it is going to affect the price earning ratio drastically. So what exactly the price earning ratio is? How to define this price earning ratio? So whenever we talk about this, how can you interpret this price earning ratio? Anybody can tell me? Yes. Yes. प्राइस अर्निंग रेशियो को हम लोग कैसे इंटरप्रेट कर सकते हैं? Anybody? Anybody? How do you interpret? For example, the price earning ratio has become 16.66. What does it mean? What is the meaning of the 16.66? How do you interpret this? Lakshya?
I'm thinking, sir.
Ravi? Are you there?
Yes, sir.
How do you interpret this 16.66?
Sir, I'm not getting because of that R minus G term.
What do you say? Again you say?
I mean, I'm not getting how to define because of the R minus G term, because PY is basically independent of what individually R and G will be having, right? It will only be depending on the difference between them. So
R
how to
minus G,
define
there is
that?
no need to look at. You don't look at this because you see that we have defined that your P is equal to D1 divided by R minus C. That is the basically we are going for the your dividend discount flow model, assuming that G is constant throughout. But once you get your P by E, that is 16.66, what it interprets, you don't look at from the R and G and perspective. So P by E ko dekhiye, you just look at this P by E. What does it mean? It is the price.
Relating the company's stock price to the earnings. So if it is high, then we can say that the stock is overvalued or it is expected to grow in the future. Like price is very high compared to the earnings, like that.
Compared to the earnings. So that means the stock is overvalued or undervalued? Stock is overvalued, right?
Undervalued.
Yes, sir.
Stock is overvalued, right? Stock is overvalued. So that's why it is not good for the investment in the future. Anyway, that is the general intuition what I'm talking about. But my question is that, for example, okay, I will make you simple in this case. Let for one stock the P by ratio is 16, another stock the P by ratio is 10. So what this 16 means and what this 10 means from the investment perspective or from the interpretation perspective?
So 16 is price and 10 are earnings.
No, this okay, this 16, maybe you are not able to conceptualize this. This 16 basically represents, or the P by ratio basically tells that how much the investor or how much rupees the investor is willing to pay for a 1 unit of expected earnings from that particular stock. For example, if you are investing for this stock, if you are investing 16 rupees, you are getting 1 rupees of investment, 1 rupees of return. For this stock, whenever you are spending or you are investing 10 rupees, you are getting 1 rupees of return. So this is basically trying to tell you that how much money this investor should invest for stock. By that, they can generate 1 extra unit of the return. So therefore, lower the price earning ratio, it is the better for the investor to invest because those stocks are considered as the undervalued stocks. For example, if the investor is willing to pay 10 times the expected or the normal earnings, then they would value a stock they expect to earn the 2 rupees per share during the following year will be 20 rupees. So that means what, if you are going to invest 20 rupees, then you are going to generate the 2 rupees of the return. So that's why the price earning ratio basically tells you that to generate 1 unit of the return, how much units or how much rupees the investor should invest or will invest. So that is the interpretation of the price earning ratio generally always we consider. So that's why the price earning ratio is a powerful kind of method through which the investor always try to utilize that thing in the market whenever they go for the investment. So that's why the P ratios are compared with the expected growth rates by the managers to identify the undervalued and the overvalued stocks. That already what you said. So in this case, what basically we are trying to say that price earning ratio, if you are comparing the two different stocks, then what we do, we basically check what is the price earning ratios of these particular two stocks. Then accordingly, whichever stock's price earning ratio is relatively low, we consider that that stock is basically we can say undervalued. So that's why the growth opportunity or the this particular potential for the growth for that particular stock is relatively higher. So because of that, the investor can prefer that stock. So the low price earning ratio stocks are called the value stocks. The stocks having low price earning ratio, we call these stocks are the value stocks. and the stocks having very high price earning ratio are basically called the growth stocks. But whenever we use this price earning ratio for the investment, sometimes also we face the problem because there are some limitations with price earning ratio. It is not meaningful when the earnings per share is negative. If the companies has generated negative profit or the loss, then for those kind of stocks, the price earning ratio may not be helpful to decide that whether the stock is a good candidate for the investment or not. So one of the limitations is if the EPS is negative, then the price earning ratio cannot be used as an investment strategy for the investment in the market. So the price earning ratio also may have a very wide variations that also can be possible, which depends on the earnings variability. Because if the earnings is quite volatile, there are certain sectors where the earnings are highly volatile, particularly the seasonal stocks. So whenever we compare the companies which belongs to a seasonal stock, it is our seasonal companies, basically what we call it. So in those kind of stocks, maybe you will find that this price earning ratio variations are quite large. So in that particular point of time, it may not be that way useful to use the price earning ratio as a strategy for the investment. So this is one of the multiple. This price earning ratio is called the earnings multiple. The price earning ratio basically is called the earnings multiple. So that is basically used by the investor to compare between the different stocks whenever they go for investment in the market. And this is quite popular and quite useful whenever we talk about the investment analysis in the market. Then apart from this price earning ratio, we have another ratio also we use, or another multiple we use, that is called the price to book ratio. Price to book ratio. Another ratio we have that is called the price to book ratio. We call it the P by B ratio. So what is this P by B ratio? The P by B ratio is basically what is the book value of a particular company. How can you calculate the book value? Anybody? One is your market value, whatever price you get from the stock, that is basically will give you the market price of the stock. How do you calculate the book value of the stock?
Sir, it is a summation of the book value of equity and book value of debt.
Okay, right. So the what then book value of equity is nothing but the book value of the assets minus the book value of the liabilities. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So here generally this whenever general convention, if you see, the assets are basically valued at the historical cost minus the depreciation. So that's why the book value of assets basically declines over the time. The book value of assets will decline over the time because there is a involvement in terms of the depreciation. Anyway, so if you are trying to calculate this, again we are going back to our simple dividend discount model, that already you know that your P0 is equal to D1 divided by R minus G. Gn. Let I am Gn I am representing because the growth rate we are assuming the stable. So in this case, I can also write this one. And what is P0? What is the D1? It can be also written your P0 is equal to your earnings per share at the time 0 into your payout ratio, your dividend payout ratio into 1 plus G divided by your R minus Gn. Am I correct or not? Are you getting it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, EPS multiplied by the payout ratio into 1 plus G. That basically this one will give you the D0. So D0, this term EPS 0 into payout ratio will give you D0, D0 into 1 plus G divided by R minus Gn, that already you know. Then generally, how do you calculate this EPS 0? I'm just giving you a formula for that also. The earnings per share is nothing but your return on equity multiplied by the book value of the equity. The book value of equity. Return on equity already you know. Return on equity means your net income divided by the total equity. Return on equity multiplied by the book value of equity, that will give you the EPS 0. Okay. So this is that means nothing but your return on equity multiplied by the book value in the initial period. So now we can again write that P0 is equal to your ROE into your book value of equity into your payout ratio into 1 plus G or 1 plus Gn, whatever you are writing, divided by your R minus Gn. So then if you write, then your P0 divided by your book value of that particular equity, that will give you your ROE into your payout ratio into your 1 plus G divided by R minus Gh. So your book value to the market value to the book value or price to book ratio is basically depends upon the payout ratio, the return on equity, the discount rate, and as well as the growth rate of this particular cash flow. Okay. So in this case, what basically we are trying to say that always the price to book ratio is directly proportional to return on equity and payout ratio, and it is inversely proportional to the discount rate of that particular R or particular equity. So then what is your G? How we calculate G? G का फॉर्मूला क्या है रे? बताया था ना, तुमको ROE दे दूंगा. What other variable you need to calculate G? Yes.
So
Yes.
retention ratio.
Retention ratio, right? Your
Yes.
retention ratio multiplied by ROE. Yes or not?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So the retention ratio multiplied by ROE. So retention ratio is nothing but 1 minus payout ratio into ROE. Then 1 minus your payout ratio is nothing but your G by ROE. And your payout ratio is basically your 1 minus G by ROE. So now if I put it here, then your P by BV is equal to what? We can write your ROE into 1 minus G divided by ROE. Yes or not? 1 plus G divided by R minus G. Yes or not?
Yes, sir.
So then what is
Yes,
this
sir.
one? On this one will be your ROE minus GN. इसको खोल देने से कितना होगा? ये क्या होगा? Your ROE into 1 minus G by ROE. Is there any changes will happen here? कुछ होगा? ROE will, ये क्या होगा रे? ROE minus G by G into ROE by ROE. Then ROE will be cancelled. Then it will be ROE minus G into 1 plus G divided by R minus G. Is it not?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So the value of the price to book ratio is nothing but the difference between the ROE and the required rate of return. Okay. So the value of the price to book ratio is nothing but the differential between the ROE and the required rate of return, and divided by you are discounting it with respect to R minus G. So here this advantage is this P by ratio, representation of the P by book ratio is that it can be estimated over time for the funds which don't pay the dividends. Why we are representing in this way? We have started it from the dividend payout ratio, but if some companies are not able to pay the dividend or are not paying the dividend, still you are able to calculate this price to book ratio in this way. So that is what basically, again, the interpretation, if you see, when the ROE will go, ROE goes down, the growth rate or the payout ratio or both goes down, the ROE basically will indirectly affect this price to book ratio, and price to book ratio is affected by the required rate of return, and when the required rate of return is high, the price to book ratio basically goes down. So these are the different factors what basically we can use it. So what kind of investment strategy we can adopt using this price to book ratio? So a low value of price to book ratio indicates that, what it indicates, the firm basically has a price which is below the book value. Okay. So the investors basically will be advised to make some kind of careful decisions about investing in these firms. So there are two reasons we have to understand, or we have to look at the other factors, that whether the firm is undervalued in the market, by that the book value is high and this market value is low. If the other fundamentals are correct, we consider that particular stock or that particular firm is undervalued stocks, and that is good for the investment. But if there is some problem in terms of the other fundamentals, then we have to take a careful look, or blindly we cannot say that this particular stock is undervalued stock. So why this particular stock is not performing in the market? What is the basic reason for that? That actually we have to identify. Then actually we can check that whether this particular stock is a good candidate for the investment or not. So this is basically the another kind of interpretation what we can make, or investment strategy we can make by using the price to book ratio. In comparison to the price earning ratio, if you see that even if the book value basically serves as a reliable intuitive measure for the whenever you compare with the market price. So even if there is a negative earnings for the firm, still the price to book ratio can be calculated, which was the limitations for the price to earning ratio. So this is basically, we can say that advantages of the use of the price to book ratio in that particular case. So that is basically another popular measure what we can use whenever we go for the use of the price to book ratio for our valuation techniques as a relative valuation techniques. Then we can move to another indicator or another ratio that we call it the price to sales ratio. Price to sales. So what basically already we can again start with this. If you again assume that the same formula P0 is equal to your DPS1 dividend per share divided by R minus that GN, and then automatic we can also write P0 is equal to your EPS 0 into your payout ratio into 1 plus GN divided by your R minus GN. And you know there is a ratio, maybe some of you might have known, that is called net profit margin. Any margin whenever we calculate for a company, that is always the denominator side, always we take the sales. So the net profit margin per share of a particular company is your earnings per share divided by your sales per share, right? The net profit margin is the generally we consider it is the EPS 0. It is the net profit margin per share. We are talking about per share. That means EPS 0 divided by the sales per share. For individual stock we are calculating. Then automatic your P0 will be in the place of EPS 0. We can write your, let we are denoting at NPM, net profit margin. So it will be your NPM into your sales per share into your payout ratio into 1 plus GN divided by R minus GN. Right? Is it clear?
Sir, profit should be proportional to sales, right?
Profits, net profit margin is basically measured through the sales. If you are talking about the profit margin in general for whole company, the profit margin will be your net profit divided by the total sales. What was your question?
Sir, but when sales are usually high, it means our margin should also be high, right?
Not necessary. That margin is different. That means for whenever you are talking about this concept is basically talks about the how much profit you are able to generate out of the total sales whatever you are making. Whatever earnings you are basically generate per share whenever you are selling a particular product in the market. You got my point?
Yes, sir. I got it.
So now if you consider it is your P0 by sales per share, that will give you your NPM into your payout ratio into 1 plus GN divided by R minus GN. That means your price to sales ratio is directly proportional to the profit margin and payout ratio, and inversely proportional to the required rate of return, which is R. That is basically always happen because the R is in the denominator. So here, if you see that the profit margin, if you calculate the price to sales ratio, if you see, when the firms have high profit margin, they have the high price to sales ratio. Okay. When there is a drop in the profit margin, it has dual effects. When the firm have the high profit margins, they have the high price to sales ratio. But whenever there is a drop in the profit margin, it has dual effects. It has a direct effect on the price to sales, which basically gets reduced, and it lowers the growth rate, which also again in turn basically affects the price to sales. So that's why the profit margin can also be defined in terms of growth rate and the retention ratio of the company. I'm going little bit deeper, so you can, if you see that how basically this growth rate, your G is equal to your retention ratio into ROE. So that we can write your retention ratio into your net profit by sales into sales by equity, total equity. It is basically the book value of the equity. It is the net profit by equity is the ROE. I have just divided into, here I have divided sales and I have multiplied sales here. So then it will be your retention ratio multiplied by profit by sales is net profit margin into your sales divided by the book value of equity. Yes. Then it is nothing but, this is basically, that means what is that? Your profit margin is basically your growth rate multiplied by your book value of equity divided by your sales multiplied by 1 by RR, the retention ratio. Are you getting the point? Yes.
Sir, can you read the last formula a little low? I cannot. Like, what is the last term? It's 1 by RR.
1 by RR.
Okay.
From here only this is all G is equal to this. Okay. So this net profit margin, this is basically your profit margin, right? So if this is the profit margin, then how the profit margin can be calculated? So I have taken all the variables to this side. Are you getting my point? G is equal to RR
Yes.
into NPM into your sales by equity. So if I write NPM, I keep it here, then it will be basically what? I'll take all these variables from this side. Then I'll just write G into your, it will be reverse, equity upon sales divided by 1 by RR. You got it or not?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So that means the profit margin can also be defined in terms of the growth rate and the retention ratio. So accordingly, you can say that your price to sales ratio also can be, it is a very useful technique in that case. And you remember, the price to sales ratio can never be negative. Can never be negative. That's why this is the added advantage what we can draw from this. And also P by S ratios are not so volatile like your other price to earning ratio and all. And as well as if you go by the investment strategy, the firms with low profit margin and high price to sales ratio are overvalued, and those with high profit margin and low price to sales ratio, these are undervalued. And the investors will be able to identify them correctly and make this particular investment decisions. So therefore, we can make a matrix in that particular case, which will be more clear to you. For example, if I write here we have the price to sales, and here you have the net profit margin, NPM. Let I have taken low, high. Here also I will take low, high. Right? So in this case, if I make a matrix in this case, low price to sales and low NPM, that means this company is correctly valued. We can say that this value is correct. But low P by S, this particular company is undervalued. High price to sales, low profit margin, we can say that it is overvalued. And this is high profit margin, high NPM, this is correctly valued. Are you getting this?
Sir, how are we saying that they are correctly valued? Like, how are we coming to this conclusion?
No, we are not concluding, because that should happen ideally. If your profit margin is low, then your price to sales ratio also should be low. Right?
Yes, sir.
But if some reason you find that you have a very high profit margin, high price to sales, but very low profit margin, then that means there is some way the company is overvalued in the market. That's why the market price has increased. It may be because of the sentiment of the people or sentiment of the market, or it may be because of some other external factors. So because of this particular stock is overvalued, but the profit margin of the particular company is quite low. So in that case, we can say that the company is overvalued. But if some companies, if you find the profit margin is quite high, but some reason this price to sales ratio is very low. What does it mean? Means the market price is very low. So in that case, we can say that this particular company is undervalued. That means market could not evaluate these things properly. Because of that, the price to sales ratio is low. So in that case, we consider it is the undervalued company. That in that sense, basically we are talking keeping the other factors constant, or the other factors are not considering in this particular analysis. This is only the kind of way to understand the use of the price to sales ratio in the investment strategy. Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is basically the another ratio what flow. Okay, because the cash flows are not manipulated. Generally, this you can manipulate certain things with respect to the balance sheet, but the cash flows are these are less prone to the manipulation. So that's why sometimes also people use the price to cash flow ratio. So that is also can be used, but the already I told you the most popular methods basically always people use, that is basically your what we call it the price to earnings ratio or price earning ratio, and as well as price to book and price to sales. And whenever we define the companies or categorize the companies as a value stocks or growth stocks, generally these three variables are used. Generally, this for categorization of the growth stocks and value stocks, we generally use this price to book ratio, price to sales ratio, price to earning ratio to understand that which company is a value stocks and the growth opportunity or value opportunity for that company is high. And another, we can also we compare or we try to understand which companies are growth companies, and those things are basically used from the investment perspective. So whenever we make the portfolio analysis, generally those kind of variables or those kind of methods are used to construct our portfolio. That's why you might have heard some investors are called the value investors. So they basically try to find out those companies which are the value companies. So how they categorize a company is a value company. So the basic fundamental starting point is they basically always consider the price to earnings, price to book, and price to sales ratio to define that particular company is a value company or not, or a growth company. So accordingly, they construct their portfolio and they take their positions in the market for the investments. So these are certain things what basically I have discussed with you. These are the fundamental valuation principles always we use in terms of the equity valuation whenever we go for investing in the market. Then we can move towards this market perspective. You need any 2 minutes break, or I'll continue? We'll go for a other topic.
Sir, break.
Okay, you take 5 minutes break, then we'll start with the other one.